In December 1957, it took exactly 2 minutes for a child to vanish from a small Illinois street. 2 minutes, the time it took 8-year-old Kathy Sigmund to run home for her mittens. When she returned to the corner of Archie Place and Sycamore, her best friend, Maria Ridulph, just 7 years old, had disappeared. So had the young man who called himself Johnny. The FBI launched what would become their largest manhunt. J. Edgar Hoover demanded daily briefings. President Eisenhower followed the case. But when Maria's body was found in Joe Daviess County 5 months later, the trail had gone cold. For 50 years, the case remained unsolved. Then, in 2008, a deathbed statement opened the investigation again. But it wasn't this confession that would ultimately matter. It was a forgotten phone call made on that December night that would expose how badly the search for justice had gone wrong. This investigation would span 60 years, shock a nation, and end with an incredible twist. Before continuing, make sure to subscribe. Every detail matters and will become America's most haunting cold case.
In 1957, Sycamore, Illinois was a postcard of American life. 60 miles west of Chicago, this town of 7,000 had weathered the Depression and World War II, emerging into what seemed like safer times. The Chicago Daily Tribune would later call it the little town that time forgot. The family lived in a quiet home on a peaceful street. Charles Ridulph, a funeral director, and his wife Frances had 4 children. Their youngest, Maria, was a second grader at West Elementary. Teachers described her as outgoing and well-liked, with dark hair and an ever-present smile. December 3rd began like any winter Tuesday. Maria wore her red sweater to school, played with her friends, and came home for dinner at 5 p.m. The early December snow had started falling, coating Sycamore streets in white. At 6 p.m., Maria asked permission to play outside with her friend Kathy Sigmund. Frances Ridulph watched from the window as her daughter skipped down the front steps. The streetlight at the corner of Center Cross and Archie Place illuminated the falling snow, where the girls would play their favorite game, Catch the Angel. It was the last time Frances would see her daughter alive. Under the corner streetlight at Archie Place, Maria Ridulph and Kathy Sigmund played Catch the Angel, trying to grab snowflakes as they fell through the yellow glow. The time was exactly 6:30 p.m. The temperature had dropped to near freezing, but the girls, bundled in winter clothes, hardly noticed. A figure emerged from the darkness. A young man, slender and handsome, somewhere between 20 and 25 years old. He wore a colored sweater and had distinctive features. His teeth were gapped and his hair was blonde and wavy. "Hi, I'm Johnny," he said, his voice friendly as he approached the girls. Kathy would later recall every detail of those moments, how Johnny talked about dolls and Christmas, how he showed them a new way to skip in the snow. Most importantly, how he seemed to focus his attention on Maria, offering her piggyback rides. At approximately 6:50 p.m., Kathy realized her hands were getting cold. "I need to get my mittens," she told Maria. Her house was just around the corner, a 2-minute trip at most. Maria stayed with Johnny, who had been entertaining them for nearly 20 minutes. When Kathy returned, the corner was empty. No Maria, no Johnny. Only footprints in the fresh snow, leading nowhere. She ran to the Ridulph house, where Frances was preparing to call Maria in for the night. "Maria's gone," Kathy told her. "She left with Johnny." The next few hours transformed Sycamore. Charles Ridulph, Maria's father, immediately called the police. Within minutes, Officer Robert Scott arrived at the scene. By 8 p.m., neighbors had formed search parties. They combed every yard, every alley, every abandoned building in the area. The falling snow was quickly covering any traces that might have been left behind. Chief William Hindenburg mobilized his entire force. By midnight, hundreds of volunteers had joined the search. They called Maria's name into the darkness, their flashlight beams cutting through the snowfall. National Guard members arrived with specialized equipment. The FBI was notified. December 4th dawned with no sign of Maria. The Chicago Daily Tribune's headline screamed, "Hunt Missing Girl, 7 in Sycamore." FBI agents began arriving in force. They set up command posts and started systematic door-to-door interviews. Every registered sex offender in DeKalb County was questioned. Every vacant building was searched again. Kathy Sigmund, the only witness, worked with police to create a detailed description of Johnny. Young man, early 20s, about 5'10", slim build, blonde hair with a flip in the front. Gap between his front teeth. He wore a colorful sweater and spoke in a soft, friendly voice. The description was broadcast across Illinois. Police checked bus stations, train depots, and highways. Roadblocks were established on major routes out of Sycamore. The community held its breath, hoping Maria would be found alive. But as December days turned into weeks, hope began to fade. December Christmas decorations seemed to mock the town's grief. The Ridulph family kept their tree up, presents wrapped and waiting for Maria's return. FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover demanded daily updates. President Eisenhower asked to be kept informed of any developments. The corner streetlight at Archie Place continued to illuminate the falling snow, but children no longer played beneath it. Parents began escorting their children everywhere. Doors were locked, strangers were viewed with suspicion. In just one evening, Sycamore had lost its innocence. And somewhere out there, a man named Johnny had vanished into the winter night, leaving behind a mystery that would haunt America for the next half-century. By December 5, 1957, Sycamore had transformed into a law enforcement command center. FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover assigned his best agents to the case, unprecedented for a local kidnapping. More than 250 FBI agents descended on the small town, conducting door-to-door interviews and following hundreds of leads. Among those questions was a local teenager, John Tessier. At 18, he matched the general description: tall, slender, with blonde hair. Police interviewed him on December 8th. Tessier provided an alibi. He was in Rockford, Illinois that evening, enlisting in the Air Force. He had made a collect call to his parents from a post office there. Military records and his family confirmed his story. Investigators moved on. The search expanded across state lines. Hoover demanded twice daily updates. President Eisenhower, moved by the case, requested regular briefings. The Chicago Tribune ran daily front-page coverage. Maria's photo appeared in post offices nationwide. Then, on April 26, 1958, two mushroom hunters made a devastating discovery in Joe Davis County, about 120 miles from Sycamore. Behind the fallen tree, they found Maria's body. She was still wearing the red sweater from the night she disappeared. The autopsy confirmed what everyone feared. Maria had been murdered shortly after her abduction. The cause of death? Strangulation. Evidence suggested she had been killed elsewhere and moved to the location where she was found. Despite the FBI's massive effort, over 7,000 interviews conducted and hundreds of leads pursued, the trail went cold. By summer 1958, most agents had left Sycamore. The file cabinets filling multiple filing cabinets were archived. But one piece of evidence, seemingly insignificant in 1957, would prove crucial 5 decades later. Phone records from the Rockford post office showing a collect call made the night Maria disappeared. The very call that had cleared John Tessier would eventually become the key to the entire case. April 26, 1958 dawned cold and damp in Joe Davis County. Two mushroom hunters searching the woods near Galena, Illinois, made their way through the dense undergrowth. Behind the fallen tree, they discovered what the entire nation had feared: Maria Ridulph's body, still clothed in the red sweater she wore the night she vanished. The location spoke volumes to investigators. Hidden 120 miles from Sycamore, in terrain so remote and difficult to access, it suggested her killer was familiar with the area. The medical examiner's findings were grim but crucial. Maria had been killed shortly after her abduction, likely by strangulation. The careful concealment of her body indicated a calculated act rather than a crime of passion. In Sycamore, the news shattered the last remnants of hope. The Ridulph family, who had maintained their Christmas vigil through winter and spring, finally faced the unthinkable. Charles Ridulph, Maria's father, identified her daughter's clothing. The Christmas tree that had stood as a symbol of hope was taken down. Maria's wrapped presents were silently put away, never to be opened. FBI agents who had pursued every possible lead for 5 months found themselves at a dead end. Crucial evidence had been lost to winter weather and time. Despite having interviewed over 7,000 people and following hundreds of leads, they couldn't identify Maria's killer. Even J. Edgar Hoover, who had taken personal interest in the case, had to admit defeat. By late summer, the massive investigation wound down. The FBI field office in Sycamore closed its doors. The case that had captured national attention and changed how Americans viewed their children's safety became another unsolved file in the FBI archives, waiting for a deathbed confession that wouldn't come for another 50 years. In 2008, Janet Tessier sat beside her dying mother in a Sycamore nursing home. For decades, a secret had tormented Janet's mother, Eileen Tessier. Now, in her final moments, she whispered words that would reopen Illinois' oldest cold case. Those 2 little girls, the one that disappeared, John did it. John was her son, Janet's half-brother, the same John Tessier who police had questioned in 1957. Now known as Jack McCullough, he had built a life in Seattle, working as a police officer and security guard. His 1957 alibi about being in Rockford the night of Maria's disappearance had cleared him, but his mother's deathbed confession changed everything. Illinois State Police reopened the case. Detective Brian Hanley began methodically reviewing the yellowed FBI files. A crucial discovery emerged. The collect call McCullough claimed to have made from Rockford couldn't have happened when he said it did. Phone records showed the call came too late to support his alibi. In 2011, investigators tracked McCullough to Seattle. Kathy Sigmund Chapman, now in her 60s, identified him from a 1957 photo array, the same man she knew as Johnny all those years ago. She had never forgotten his face. On July 1, 2011, police arrested Jack McCullough. In September 12, 2012, at age 72, he was convicted of Maria's murder and sentenced to life in prison. The courthouse in Sycamore, where Maria's father had once worked as a bailiff, finally seemed to deliver justice. In 2016, newly elected state's attorney Richard Schmock made a stunning announcement. After a thorough review of the case, he had discovered what everyone missed. Jack McCullough was telling the truth in 1957. The crucial phone records that had helped convict McCullough actually proved his innocence. AT&T records showed that collect calls from Rockford could only have been made from a phone booth next to the post office, exactly where McCullough claimed to be. The timing matched his original alibi. More evidence emerged. Train schedules from 1957 proved it was physically impossible for McCullough to have been in Sycamore at the time of Maria's abduction and in Rockford later that night. FBI records from 1957 had already cleared him, documenting his presence in Rockford. On April 15, 2016, Judge William Brady vacated McCullough's conviction. After serving 4 years for a crime he didn't commit, McCullough was released. He was 77 years old. In 2017, McCullough received a certificate of innocence and $710,000 in restitution. But the true cost was immeasurable. His mother had gone to her grave believing her son was a killer. Maria Ridulph's case returned to unsolved status. The Archie Place streetlight still stands, illuminating questions that have haunted Sycamore for over 60 years. Who was the man called Johnny? And will Maria's family ever find justice? Today, Maria Ridulph's case stands as America's oldest unsolved kidnapping. The corner of Archie Place and Center Cross Street looks different now. The streetlight replaced, the house is modernized. But for Sycamore's older residents, December 3rd, 1957 feels like yesterday. Kathy Sigmund Chapman, the only witness to Maria's abduction, still carries the weight of those 2 minutes when she left to get her mittens. The Ridulph family never found closure. Maria's siblings, now in their 70s, still hope for answers. The FBI files, filling countless boxes, contain 7,000 interviews and decades of leads. Somewhere in those yellowed pages, investigators believe, lies the truth about the man who called himself Johnny. But with many potential suspects now deceased, time is running out. The case that changed how America watched its children remains a warning echoing through generations. In Sycamore, parents still tell their children about Maria, the little girl in the red sweater who disappeared on a snowy December evening. Perhaps the most haunting question remains: has Maria's killer been watching all along as this case unfolded across 6 decades? Some cases stay with us forever. Maria Ridulph's story isn't just history, it's a mystery that still needs solving. If you want to help keep cold cases alive, subscribe and hit the notification bell. Leave a comment with your thoughts on who Johnny might have been. Sometimes the smallest detail can break a case wide open. Join us daily for investigation into the most compelling unsolved mystery.